All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here as always. Today, I'm very, very excited to have Antonio Sangio, one of my mentors and teachers in hypnosis. And he has an amazing book that just came out. And I felt that I needed to share this book because there's so many important things in this book. So, Antonio, thank you so much for joining me. How are you
No,
doing?
thank you, Lisa. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you. And thank you for inviting me. I'm doing great. This is, we're, for people when they watch this video, we're in November 2022. So we just had Thanksgiving and it had been busy with sessions before Thanksgiving, just having one more class and one more workshop in December. But then it starts to slow down a little bit. But yeah, it's been great. I cannot complain.
That's beautiful. That's wonderful. And so here is Antonio's book. And see, before I was able to get it, there we go.
There you go.
Awesome. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And there is a lot in this book. So I'm not going to be able to do it justice. All I can tell you is that you definitely want to get this book because as I read it, things were coming to me like, oh, that could be why this is happening to me, or that could be why that's happening to me. And of course, you're going to want to book a session with him as soon as you are done with the book. Antonio, for those that, of course, haven't read it, can you tell us what the book is about and what the purpose? What was the purpose of writing the book?
Well, yeah, each book has its own purpose, right? That's The Symptoms of the Soul is my third book. And I had My Soul's Purpose and then Guiding Lost Souls. But the first book, speaking about the first book, was for people that start in this journey, to tell them more or less how it's going to be. And I share concept of spirituality and a lot of cases. With Guiding Lost Souls, the motivation for that was to share information with other practitioners on how to work with lost souls from the frequency of love, how to help them, because I had noticed that some practitioners were treating these lost souls disrespectfully, talking about them as demons or evil, and I don't believe in that. So I decided to write that book and make it available to practitioners to know how at least how I learned to do this from my teachers and how I have been doing it for years, and which is helping lost souls. It's helping clients, but that do not have a body, right? And then with the Symptoms of the Soul, is helping people become aware of these symptoms, that the symptoms or unexplained symptoms that they are experiencing now could be coming from unresolved experiences, either from, I don't know, a few years ago, maybe from the childhood, maybe from the time in the womb, and even from past lives. That is the intention of that book. Also, how the feminine energy can be affected by all of that happened to us in past lives. And I say to us because we all have feminine and masculine energy. And yes, I'm a man in this reincarnation, but I'm sure I have been a woman in some other lives before. So we're all being affected by this. That's the main goal of that book, is to raise awareness about this.
Okay, very good. So I want to start, I'm going to try to cover a lot. Let's hope that we can do this.
Okay.
So I want to start because I feel this is important as a practitioner myself. What is the definition of trauma?
Okay, a trauma, so let's start by saying this, right? When people come to a session with symptoms, with unexplained symptoms that do not have a logical, scientific, or medical explanation, what we're going to assume for a moment to start the session is that the symptoms they bring are caused by a trauma. A trauma is a painful experience that the soul has not been able to process completely at three levels: physical, emotional, and mental level. When you're not able to process that experience at those three levels, that experience, of course, is not complete. But at the same time, part of our energy gets trapped in that experience. And okay, Antonio, but why is it affecting me now? You're talking about past lives. You're talking about time in the womb. And what happens, Elisa, is that for the soul, time doesn't exist, right? So everything is happening now. There's no time, there's no space. And even if that happened to you in the womb or in a past life, for your soul, that just happened.
It's happening now. Yeah.
But if this is coming from a traumatic experience where your soul is trapped, soul entrapment, for your soul, this is still happening. And that is why you're feeling the symptoms now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about was what you mentioned, the illusion of time, which I think it's also very critical for people to understand, right?
Yes.
That
yes.
everything's happening right now. There's no such
Exactly.
thing as a past life.
Exactly. So as I was saying, for the soul, there's no time. Everything is happening now. So let's gonna give you the same example I give every time, right? Let's say that you had a traumatic death in Egypt. Let's say that you were buried alive. For your soul, that just took place. Your soul doesn't understand time. It just took place. But since you were, I don't know, as they were burying you alive, you were thinking about your wife and your kids, and this is not fair. Why are they doing this to me? You start focusing on something else, or maybe you focus on I need to breathe in order to survive. And while that is happening, you're not becoming aware of everything else that is taking place or what is taking place with your body. In other words, you don't die properly. And then from one moment to another one, you're dead. Your body is dead. And you get trapped in that experience. Of course, you go to the light, you come back. But then whenever you face a similar situation like that one, maybe if you get into an elevator, if you go on a train, on a plane, since for your soul that is still happening, your body starts reacting the way it reacted in Egypt. You cannot breathe, you freak out, let me out of here, I cannot be inside of this enclosed space. Why? Because for your soul, this is still happening. So time is just an illusion, and it changes the approach of the session. So when you understand that there's no time, there's the past, present, and future, it is just a creation of the human brain to understand time. The approach of your session changes because you understand that all of those lives that we call them past lives, all of those lives where you're trapped, because you can be trapped in many places at the same time, are affecting us now. And understanding this, then there's no regression. There's no traveling in time and space. Think about it. What you have from those events are symptoms. Think of the symptoms as the tip of the iceberg, right? That's the only conscious part. That's the only part that you see is the tip of the iceberg.
Correct.
But the experience that originated that symptom is underneath. So we can define this, the work that I'm doing now with the latest technique that I learned from Jose Luis Cabuli, past life therapy, terapia de vidas pasadas in Spanish, is defined as helping people make them conscious of what is unconscious to them. So we're going to start asking questions about the symptoms. And as you ask the right questions about the symptoms, that's going to take them to the experience that originated that symptom to work with it. So there's no traveling in time and space. There's no regression. Believe it or not, you don't even need people to be in a trance to do that.
I know, and that's huge. That's huge because
that,
I think people come to the session expecting this, oh, I'm going to go into trance and I'm going to, and just knowing that it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter because it's already with us. Now, there are different types of sessions for different purposes, right? For example, I also practice life between lives, Michael Newton's technique.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to have that type of session, you first need to have a past life regression. That's the requirement, but established by Newton himself,
Mm-hmm.
to understand how deep the client goes into a trance and to work with any pending issues before going to the spirit world.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said, depending to determine how deep they go into a trance, because for a live between live session, you need the people to go very, very deep to go into these places. For introspective hypnosis, it's a little bit different. They don't need to go that deep. The session is more dynamic because we're going to work with symptoms. And with past life therapy, it's really more of the same. You don't need to go that deep. in order to get into that experience. What's going to stop the client, I think, is going to be the expectations for the session. If they're
Yes.
thinking that they should feel relaxed, I don't want them relaxed, because if I relax you before the session, I'm getting away of the symptom, right? Or people thinking I'm going to fall asleep, they need to understand that they are not going to fall asleep, because if you fall asleep, how am I going to talk to you? Or that I need to feel that I'm going deep. People that go into a trance don't even realize they are in a trance. And I demonstrate this in my classes, people saying, ask them that, sometimes I tell them that they will not be able to get their hand out of the head. And when I get to, I'm going to count from 1 to 3. When I get to 3, you will open your eyes and you will not be able to move your hand from the head. 1, 2, 3, open your eyes. How are you doing? Okay, they say. Are you in a trance? And they tell me, no, I am not. Can you take your hand out of the head? And they try to take the hand and they can't. Are you in a trance? No, I am not. So that's to show everybody that even when people go into a trance, they don't realize they're in a trance. And what's going to stop people in a session is their own expectations.
Yeah.
Based on what they read in other books, based on stage hypnosis videos that they might have watched. So you're always conscious and aware and present during the sessions.
Yeah. That's huge. And that also helps for people like me. Like whenever I would go to a QHHT session, I would never see anything because I am not the creative, my right side of the brain was not developed. And, it's always these people that were the left brain people in this new way of the way that you're doing things. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're going to do well, no matter whether you can see a past life or not see a past life.
Yeah, exactly. What happened is that, please correct me if I'm wrong, if you're going to have a QHST session, you need to be visual, because the induction is visual.
Big time.
And then if you go to your beautiful place, you're using visualizations, but not everybody is visual.
Exactly.
So I'm not that visual either.
Yeah.
But one thing that I learned in the way, even training with Aurelio Mejia, my second teacher, is that the big mistake that we make as practitioners is to keep asking our clients, and what do you see? And what do you see?
Yes.
If they're not visual, they're not going to see anything. If you keep asking the same question, they're going to get frustrated and they're going to get out of that state, because the fact that they're not visualizing doesn't mean that they are not in a trance.
Exactly.
So we start changing the questions. Okay, if they say, I don't see anything, that's perfect. When I close my eyes, I don't see anything either. But I can imagine, or I can feel, or I can sense, or sometimes ideas come to my mind. What comes to your mind when I talk about this? So we start using other channels. Instead of using the visual, we could use the auditory, the kinesthetic. It depends. We need to adjust. Not everybody is the same.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I feel this is so important, because this takes care of whoever comes through that door, no matter who it is.
Yes. So thanks to my teachers, I learned to deal with different type of clients, right? And you will have people that are afraid of hypnosis sessions. But Antonio, why do they come to you if they're afraid? Because most of the time, Elisa, we are their last resource.
Yes.
They tried everything before, and I just need to do this, but I'm afraid. And I can tell them, okay, if you're afraid of hypnosis, we can do it without hypnosis. Really? Yeah, we can use this other technique, and they go into a trance anyway. Maurice Netherton said it in his book that as long as people are with their eyes closed telling you about their past events, they are already in a regression. So you don't need for them to go deep and do. Yes, of course, if somebody books a hypnosis session, they're expecting an induction, so I use induction. But induction doesn't mean trance. Induction is helping them, takes them to the doors of trance and opens the doors. They're going to start getting into trance when they start talking about their events, their memories, and they're starting disengaging from the now, from this moment.
Yeah. All right. So moving on. The illusion of that. Okay, so the purpose of the soul. So let's talk about the purpose of the soul. And I'm going through like your chapters, so it's easier to. Okay, so we're talking about karma. So let's talk real quickly about karma and what does it mean and what you've seen in your sessions that it means.
Okay, yeah. A lot of people have the wrong idea about karma. They think that karma is punishment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that as punishment. Of course, I learned this concept from my teachers, but I don't just want to be like a parrot repeating what I learned from others. I also want to check that this is really what it is, through with my client through their own sessions. So what I have noticed is that karma is the law of balance, is action and reaction, right? Give you one example. I remember I had a client that this client had been, as we started navigating the memories, this client had been molested a few times in her life, being a young girl. The client was in her 40s, I think. And we navigated 1, 2, 3 memories, and all of those memories were about molestation by different people. So she got upset and said, "Not again. Why me?" Screaming and crying in the session. I said, "Okay, so let's see why. I'm going to count from 3 to 1. When I get to 1, I want you to go to the origin of this, the moment or the event that originated this for your soul. Maybe a time where you might have done something similar. Who knows?" And she went back to a past life where she was a man, a soldier. And the soldier is describing to me about the scenes was taking place, about the war that had been alone for a long time. And this soldier started getting into the houses, and the soldier was raping women. And he was describing what the women were doing and how they were fighting and crying. And the soldier said, "But I'm sorry, I need to do this." And you could see the face, the pleasure in this person's face as he was doing this. So action and reaction. Now, being in the life of this woman, when she was a young woman, she had to experience what the soldier did to others. So with karma, you get to experience yourself up to a certain degree what you did to others. So
Yeah.
And that's why we speak about victim roles.
Yes,
The
and we're gonna,
aggressor
yeah, I have this to talk about because
and
that's
the
at the end of the
observer,
book.
right? Sometimes it comes from past life where the victim was an aggressor. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, the next one is really important, and I've talked about it on my channel very often, but I like to repeat that one
Okay.
because it's important, and that is contracts. What are life contracts?
Well, in the spirit world, and I, of course, we got this from Dolores Cannon, but also Michael Newton talks about this. When you're going to reincarnate, let's take this planet as planet Earth is a school, and we come here to learn. But in order to learn specific lessons, sometimes you decide to come with specific people. I need you to, when we meet on Earth, I need you to do this with me, or you need to do this to me in order to learn this type of lesson. So we make contracts. It's an agreement. We agree to be together to learn something, go through something together. So let's say an agreement could be, "Oh, okay, I'm going to be a woman, and you're going to be the one that raised me." And Antonio will never do that to you, being a woman. So yeah, but I need to learn how to forgive once you do that to me. Or I need you to be my wife, and I need you to cheat on me. Or I'm just gonna need you to be my wife and help me going through my journey by let's say, right? I assume this is what happened with my wife. We're going to have 3 kids. I'm going to raise kids, and are going to have their own missions. But at the same time, I need to learn from you. Maybe you're going to learn from me, but I have this journey, and we can go together through this. So we make these contracts. Sometimes people see this as a negative thing. Why would I make a contract for somebody to make me suffer? Well, we learn in love and we learn in suffering, but suffering is an amplifier for learning. So these contracts are agreements. Even if people see it as a negative thing, why did I marry this guy? Why did I marry this woman that made me suffer? Now I have kids with him or with her, and I'm trapped. That's your lesson. Those are your teachers.
Yes, and so talking about the lesson, what happens when a lesson is not learned?
Apparently, Elisa, we repeat it. Because we have free will. It's like saying, okay, I want to be a doctor, and I know that in order to be a doctor, I first need to enter university. So this university is called Planet Earth, let's say. All right. And in order to become a doctor, I need to be there for 4 years, and I need to take these courses. And I know that different courses are taught by different teachers. And I know that this teacher that teaches chemistry is a very demanding teacher, right? So let's say that I go to university, and once I'm taking this chemistry class, I said, no, this is too much for me. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. So I decide to just get out of that course. But hey, there's no way out of this school. You're in this school. You need to learn chemistry one way or another one. If you don't want to learn it now, it's going to be next year. It's the same thing with the body, right? So if you don't want to learn the lesson, once you're facing the lesson, you have free will. You can say, no, I don't want to do this. Or you can choose to feel a victim and not take responsibility of the lesson that you plan yourself. But what's going to happen? It's going to come back in the next life.
Yep.
Doesn't even need to be next life. When you try to run away from a lesson, the same lesson will keep coming to you, disguised as a different person or situation, right?
Yes.
So when people say, Antonio, I need to have a session in order to understand what I'm here to learn, you don't need a session for that. Tell me what is the most difficult thing for you to do. Tell me what's the thing that it happens to you over and over and over.
Absolutely.
That's what you need to do. That's what you need to learn. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny that the easiest way I figured that out was women that were in abusive relationships. It's like, why do I keep going out with the same guy, abusing me? And I'm like, because you're not learning the lesson to walk away, to have self-worth, to love yourself,
Well,
it just repeats.
The main theme in sessions are self-love and self-worth.
Yes.
Robert Schwartz, in his book, Your Soul's Plan, it's a great book. I recommend it everybody, I recommend it to everybody. He said, and I agree with it, that we learn by opposites. We start experiencing the opposite of what we're supposed to learn. And it's true. Think about it, your first teachers are your family. It's your family, your parents. And we go through the most difficult lessons sometimes through them. Why? Because if you're trying to go through a difficult lesson through a friend, you have the choice to say, I don't want you to be my friend. I don't want you to be my partner. I don't want you to be my wife, my husband. But there's no way to go away from parents, especially when you're a kid, right? So during childhood, we start experiencing a lot of these issues. But we need to understand that what we need to learn is the opposite to what we experience. If we experience neglect, lack of love, low self-esteem, is the opposite. And it's difficult sometimes because you're in your own marriage and now you have your own kids, and now you're faced with this situation. Now I need to give love to my kids, love that I didn't receive. And that's a challenge. That's a lesson. How can I give what I don't have? We need to come up with those answers. We need to come up with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that was very big. The next one is accidents.
Yeah, what we call accidents, there are no accidents. Even accidents are planned, right? I would say I would consider accidents to be the plan B in most cases, not all the time. When you're deviating from what you're supposed to do, your soul created backup plans. So if by this point I'm deviating, I'm going to experience this accident. And this accident is going to give me back on track. I'll talk about my case, which is not an accident. It was not an accident. In 2008, we had this issue with real estate and people losing properties left and right? Since I came to the US, I studied hypnosis in 2013. But I was engaged on working, becoming somebody. And what I was understanding back then is you are what you are based on what you have. So I was accumulating things. And we had investment properties. And in 2018, And in order to have those investment properties, of course, I sacrificed time with my family, time with my kids, vacation time. And when 2008 came, I lost those properties. And I felt like I sacrificed myself, sacrificed time. My kids were kind of grown-ups already. I felt stupid. And I was depressed. I was sad. I could not sleep. You know, our house in Charlotte was let's say our third house. The other ones were investment houses. And one night, after a few months, I learned that my treasure is not my house, it's not my car, it's my family. It doesn't matter where we are, as long as we are together. Once I understood that, everything opened up again. So what was happening, Elisa, is that I was deviating from what I came to do. I engaged on acquiring material things, which is not what I came to do. So it threw me in a different direction and aligned me with my purpose, I would say. So the same thing happened with accidents. You know, accidents force you to change your course, do things that different in different ways that you were doing it. You know.
Yeah.
And we're talking about accidents, but it could be rape, it could be the loss of a loved one, it could be what I just explained, a financial situation, you name it.
Yeah, something major. And that was a big story in your book about this man who came and used to play baseball professionally and, you know, has this accident. And I can't remember how it happened, but anyway, he's unable to use his leg or something.
Yeah.
And he can't play professionally anymore. And it was his soul going like, you're not right. You're supposed to be doing this over here, not this.
What was interesting about that case is the father who came first.
Yes.
For his own session, right? So the father came for his own session, and during his session, by himself, he went into what we call the library, the Akashic records, right? And since he was there, he was concerned about his son. So go find the book of your son's life. And he was seeing this book, and he saw his son's past lives and why his son was unhappy doing what he was doing, playing baseball. He kind of understood this. Okay, they can say whatever in a session. I mean, I'm not here to prove that it's true or not. It's true for them, it's true, period. So a few days later, I got a phone call from his son saying, you had a session with my father, I watched the video, and my father in that video said things that I had never shared with him. How did he know? I want my own session. He came for his session. And he had a life as, seems to be a conquistador times, right?
Uh-huh.
They will get slaves.
Yep.
Then he also, I think, experienced the life of slave, but he didn't like what they were doing to these people, to slaves. So he jumped out of the boat, right? Mm-hmm. And a shark ate his leg. Mm-hmm. He lost his leg trying to get away from something he didn't like, something he was doing that he didn't like. So in this life, he was good at playing baseball. I mean, he was, that's happened with many parents, right? His push to keep practicing. So something he was doing with joy, just playing baseball, they were forcing him to do that, to be professional. So there was no joy. How do I escape from this situation? What is the soul thinking at that moment? How did I escape last time from this situation, doing something I didn't enjoy? I lost my leg, right? So the soul unconsciously created this accident. So again, his leg was affected. He was never able to play baseball again, but he was happy because he was not playing baseball. And I call him. I talked to him about his case, get his permission to put that case in my book. I mean, some names I changed.
Yeah.
You know, and nationality and ethnicity to keep the privacy.
Right.
But in his case, he said, no, use my name. Use my name, the father as well. So
no, it was interesting, you know, because he I think he was going to lose the leg in this life. And you're like, does he need to lose the leg? And it's like, no. You know, so it's just I'm telling you guys, you got to read this book. It's amazing. Seriously. Okay. The next one is choosing bodies with limitation. When we come and we choose bodies with limitations, why would we do that? Why would we want to choose a body with a limitation? when we come to this life?
Well, it depends of the type of lesson that you need to learn, right? So if you learn, for example, I don't know, in previous life, you were not happy with the body you had, or you were not grateful for the body that you had in the past life. So in this body, to learn that, not to be judgmental of that, you're gonna choose a body that's gonna have let's say a defect,
Disability or
a
something.
disability, and maybe it's not something that is gonna happen when you're born, but maybe you're gonna have an accident where you're gonna be burned, and you're going to get disfigured. Or if you need to, let's say that you were judging people by the looks, so this time you were not using your eyes for the right purpose. You didn't get to see the people's values. So this time in this life, you're gonna choose a body that is gonna be blind. Now you're going to navigate the world just using all the senses, but not your eyes. So you choose a body according to the type of lesson that you're going to learn. There are people that chose bodies that were going to be not attractive and overweight because in a previous life they were beautiful, and that took them away from their path. Or maybe because being beautiful, it's dangerous to be beautiful and handsome, because you can experience a lot of things in your life. You can be raped, you can be molested, many things, right? But in this case, I remember this woman was beautiful. And because of that, she was doing other things. She forgot about her lesson and her mission. So she said, okay, next time I'm choosing this body that is going to be overweight and not attractive. I don't want anything to distract me for what I have to learn. So we're choosing bodies according to the lessons. You have these video games, right? You have these video games that kids play, and they go into different worlds, and based on the world that you're gonna go, you choose your weapons, you choose your armor, you choose your body. It is the same thing. That's what we do.
Same thing. Yeah, that's what we do, and that's what I teach people, is that we are in a video game. We are in a simulation. Okay, the next. Okay. Oh, something that I read that I wanted to say in the book. It says that came from that one of those sessions. To escape something, something else has to happen. Even though that something else seems negative, it's better than where you were. So it's important to note that to escape, for example, a job you hate, right? Something has to happen. You have to make something else happen, right? Even though that something else seems negative, not having a job seems negative, right? It's better than where you were. And it also the example of like that the baseball player who jumped in and he was happy dying with no legs and being in the ship, right? Like, so you got to do something. You have to do something different.
My own experience. As I said, I learned hypnosis in 2013, not that long ago. And by 2000, and I was practicing after hours. I was working my full-time job. I'm an IT, systems engineer. That's what I have been doing for years. So everything I did was after hours, practice sessions. And even when I started teaching, I was teaching on the weekends. So I thought I was going to practice hypnosis full-time when I retired, maybe 65, or maybe early retirement, 62, who knows, right? But life had a different journey for me. And I noticed how the company, the corporation I was working for, started making changes, and they were laying people off, and everybody was concerned. And I was surviving all of those cuts that they were making. So I remember, and I went to a friend was taking a course with some psychic course or whatever, and they had a psychic fair. So I went to one of those fairs, and I had a reading with this lady, and this lady said, just be careful, this is what's coming. I don't see you working for that company for that long. And I was like, oh my God. And these are the changes that are coming, and it started taking place. So I was concerned about losing the jobs. I worked for that company like for 12 years. Another woman, Justina Lessi, you guys want to look for her. Justina Lessi did it really, really, really good. She told me, this is a second psychic, right? She told me, Antonio, it's true. I don't see you working for that company for that much longer. but they're not letting you go. You are resigning. You came here to do all the things. What is she talking about? I'm concerned about losing my job. I need to support my family. And in less than a year, everything took place. And now I made the decision after I taught my first class with Alba, my first live class with Alba in 2018. I was not the same person I was when that's that class after that week, because I taught that class during my one of my vacation weeks. I was not the same person. Antonio, the IT guy, had died during that week. And when I turned on my computer on that Monday to start working, I had this overwhelming feeling. I said, what are you doing? Yeah. What are you doing? I said, I'm not going to listen to you. Forget about it. I'm not going to listen to you.
The fear.
Yeah. I was, I don't know, 50, 51 back then. I need to wait until 65, but I felt all this weight on top of me. And Alba said, just resign. You can do this full time, Antonio. No. 3 days later, I just gave up. And I said, okay, I give up. Guys, whatever you want me to do, I cannot continue doing this way. And I decided to resign in I think it was September. I said, okay, I decided I was going to resign in December, but I made a decision in September. Mm-hmm. And since then, everything unfolded. I would say what I came here to do unfolded, and the sessions and the classes and the workshops and the books. So it's what you said. For something to change, you need to go through some painful moment, that is going to open up the new path. It even happens in relationships. Sometimes people are stuck in these relationships that are toxic, that are not good, but they don't want to let this person go because they're afraid of the unknown, what's coming next. And they don't understand that once they let that person go, they're going to have a wonderful person waiting for them in the future.
Yeah, something else will open up,
Yes.
The universe will support you if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Again, like a video game, as I explained to people, in a video game, it gets harder when you get to the next level. It gets really hard there at the end.
It's hard.
And once you get that through there, something else opens up and you're like, oh my God, look at this new landscape. It's huge,
You get the support that you need, and you can manifest the tools that you need to go through that new phase. Antonio, is it easier now for you that you know spirituality? No, it's not easy. Because if I preach about forgiveness, I'm going to be tested on what I preach. So I need to forgive myself. I need myself to start forgiving in my life all the things that took place. So not because you know about spirituality, life is going to become easier. No, you go to a different set of lessons, but it's still challenging.
It's all about learning. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so soul entrapment, which is the biggest, I think, part of the book, is about soul entrapment and how soul entrapment and soul fragmentation create the symptoms, basically, the symptoms that can't be explained. So to break it down, before we talk about the types, first, how is soul entrapment created?
Remember, we were talking about traumatic events and how when we went through those traumatic events and we were not able to process that event at those 3 levels, we got trapped in that event because that event was not processed completely. Part of our soul, part of our energy gets trapped in that event. Yes, we can talk about time in the womb and past lives, right? Think about it. I had people coming for sessions being 70 years old, talking about events that took place when they were 5 years old. And they're still resentful, as if it had happened yesterday. Oh, wow. Why? Because for the soul, that's still happening. They're trapped, right? So the same thing, when you're not able to process that event completely, you get trapped. And those symptoms come from there. And what we do in a session is we help the person go to that event and to help them do whatever they were not able to do, process the event at those 3 levels to end the entrapment. So that's soul entrapment. It's part of you trapped in that experience, causing the symptoms.
Okay, very good. So let's talk about the types of soul entrapments. Okay. So we have past life and postmortem, and then postmortem is broken into unconscious, conscious, and suicide. So what would you want to tell us about past life and then the postmortem?
Right. As my teacher, Jose Luis Cabuli, would say, right, during death, you put your whole reincarnation at risk. because as we're dying, we're still making decisions, you know. For example,
And having thoughts.
and having thoughts, of course. So let's say that you did a few, but let's say that you raped a few people or you molested a few people, right? You realize that as you're dying, you said, I don't deserve to be happy. I don't deserve to be forgiven. So you're issuing a command that your soul is carrying to the next body, the next reincarnation, because who's saying that is not the body, it's the soul. The soul never dies. So you get trapped. You get trapped in that experience because of that thing that you said. But also, once we die, we might choose not to go to the light. As I said, we always have free will down here and up there, right? So you might say, I don't want to go to the light because I'm going to be judged. I don't want to go to the light because I'm going to seek my revenge from this guy that killed me. I'm not going to the light for whatever reason. You get trapped.
Or they think they're going to go to hell, you know, because they were convinced there's a hell.
Right. And if you read my book, Guiding Lost Souls, you'll see that when we die and before we go to the light, we keep our same personality, fears, phobias, sadness, our belief system. We start disassociating from them as we go to the light. So at that moment, we're out of the body. It's you without a body. So if you were Catholic or Christian and you say, I am going to be sent to hell because of what I have done, that's exactly what you're going to think out of the body. And you might choose not to go to the light because God is going to send me to hell, even though it doesn't happen. You know?
Right. It's a fallacy.
Yeah. So that's in past lives and post-mortem. You know, I mean, past lives, the traumatic events, not only associated with the death, but let's say you were raped in a past life, or somebody stole your kid in a past life, and that might reflect as you being afraid of having kids in this life, because your soul knows that having a kid you get the risk of losing it and suffer. So why getting pregnant, right? So you get all these symptoms now. You get those from those events in past life. You get from the death. You get also trapped. You can get trapped after you die. Yes. And then you said conscious and unconscious.
Yeah, and suicide. The post-mortem, so the post-mortem ones.
Yeah, the post-mortem is when you die, you even out of the body, you start making decisions, right? I don't want to go because I want my revenge. I don't want to go because I want to stay with my wife. I don't want to go because I want to take care of my kids. I don't want to leave my kids alone. You get trapped, you know, post-mortem. And then you have the unconscious one, is when we die unconscious. Drug overdose, anesthesia, during your sleep. When you wake up, you don't have a body. And that creates a confusion. So in other words, some souls don't realize that that their body died. Have you watched a movie, The Sixth Sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Same thing, right? So sometimes I had to be the one to tell them, because they were telling me I'm not dead. So yeah, it's true, your soul never dies. But you said you're a man. Do you realize that you're talking to me through a female body? And they stop for a second, like they realize that they died. So that's unconscious. When they are drug overdose, anesthesia, all that stuff, and they're asleep, even in a fire, you have smoke, and the first thing that happens is you lose consciousness. You know, as a matter of fact, I had a lost soul that was a firefighter and didn't know that he had died. You know, and that's in Spanish. That's in it's on YouTube channel in Spanish. It's a few years ago. I had one of those sessions. So yeah, that's the unconscious one.
Wow.
And then the suicide, you said,
suicide.
Right?
Yeah,
suicide
that was important.
It's very important. What's important to understand is somebody suicidal now? Most likely they were suicidal in a past life, right? And it's important to understand what they were experiencing before they killed themselves, because this person that's about to commit suicide is in its own realities, virtual realities, could be depression, sadness, or whatever. And they made this decision of killing themselves just to learn that by killing the body, the problem's still there, because the depression, sadness, and all those things they were feeling is associated with the soul. not with the body. So when they return, when they reincarnate, they're going to recreate the emotional state they were in right before they kill themselves. So they're trapped. They're trapped in a way in that event, and they're trapped now because they are recreating the way they were feeling back then. And before we started this meeting, I was saying, right, what my teacher said, nobody becomes a saint by just dying. Death doesn't do anything for us. It's not going to give you a better understanding. It's not going to take care of your fear, for your sadness, and finished events. You're going to come back with all the things that they're pending from previous bodies.
Yeah. That's huge. That is huge.
Yeah.
The other type was the womb, soul entrapment, and also during birth as well.
Yeah. In the womb, and not a lot of practitioners pay attention to the time in the womb. And what I have noticed in my sessions, that a lot of people, by just going to the womb, they take care of many of the things they bring to the session. Why? Because at that moment in the womb, you are connected to your mother. You're inside your mother's vibrational field or vibratory field. You have a type of telepathic connection with her. You feel what she feels, you think what she thinks. But the problem is that during the womb, or the womb is the realm of the subconscious mind. You're not able to differentiate what belongs to you, what belongs to your mother. So once you're born, you start recreating your mother's emotional state in your life. You were programmed, not on purpose, not consciously, but you were programmed about what your mother was taking place. Not only that, we make the same way we make decisions as we're dying, and when the body died already, we make decisions in the womb. If the mother says, this baby's a mistake, or I should get rid of this baby, the soul says, I don't want to move. I don't want my mother to know I'm here because I can be killed. And once that baby is born, it's going to have that attitude. Number one, not a good relationship with the mother because you wanted to kill me, and avoiding conflict, avoiding problems because people can kill me, if I do anything. In other words, Elisa, what's going to happen with the soul in the womb is the soul's going to say, what do I have to do for people to love me? What do I have to do for people not to kill me? Or if your father, when your mother was pregnant with you, said, I want this one to be a boy, and you're going to be a girl, so you're making a decision. So I'm going to make my father sad because I'm going to be a little girl. So once I am born, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make my father happy. I will make it up for him. Or as one of my clients said, I'm deciding to be my father's little boy. So once they're born, they engage in that attitude of pleasing the father. Or maybe another case, the mother was going through a lot of abuse, and was thinking about leaving her husband, and then she realized she was pregnant. So she said, now I cannot leave this guy because I have another kid. How am I going to support myself and stay with this guy? And she was being abused during pregnancy, And the baby said, this woman in the womb said, my mother is going through that because of me. Because of me, she stayed with my dad and is being abused. When I am born, I'll do whatever it takes to make my mother happy. And the person is born and is engaged, being focused on making the mother happy. People will say, but that's normal. We all want our parents to be happy. Yeah, but this is the extreme. She was forgetting about herself. It was creating a lot of issues. She was deluding herself in just taking care of her mother's problems, emotions, issues, because she made that decision in the womb. So soul entrapment in the womb. You're trapped in that experience.
Yeah. Wow. Just incredible. Incredible. And also during birth as well, right? When you're born, it's very traumatic as well.
It's traumatic. Birth can be experienced by the soul as is the first of survival experience of the soul, but it can also trigger memories from previous lives. Think about being stuck in the birth canal. Might remind you of a time where you were buried alive, where they're using forceps to take you out. Might remind you of a time.
That's got to be so traumatic. I can't even imagine.
You were tortured. Think about it. If you're put into an incubator, Or if they don't do that nowadays, but they used to put general anesthesia to the mothers, right?
Yeah.
Back in the days, thinking, oh my God, I just killed my mother.
Yeah.
I don't feel my mother. I don't hear my mother. I just killed my mother. Or if they put them in incubators, the experience of separation, isolation, all of that is really traumatic for the baby. When I say the baby, is the soul, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And all of that could be causing issues to us now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's huge. Okay, and then there's soul fragmentation, which is very different from soul entrapment, and soul entrapment could cause soul fragmentation.
Exactly. Right.
Okay, so first explain, what is soul fragmentation?
Fragmentation is when this traumatic experience is too difficult, is too much for you to handle, that part of your soul breaks and leaves. So with soul entrapment, you still have that part of your soul with you, but it's trapped in another experience. Let me put this example. Let's say that you have your car and you buy a spare battery, just in case. You put it in the trunk, you lock the trunk, and then one day you realize that there's no power in your battery, and you say, okay, yeah, but I have a spare battery in my trunk. So you go to your trunk, and then you realize that the trunk is locked and you don't have the key to the trunk. The battery is there, the energy is there, you don't have access to it. Soul entrapment. You have part of your energy trapped in an experience. You don't have access to it, but it's there with you, right? With soul entrapment, think of the battery just leaving, going somewhere else.
Yeah.
So
no,
part of your
no
soul,
spare tire.
Yeah. So part of your soul breaking and going out.
Okay.
And what normally happens with people that have very traumatic lives, especially childhoods, they either fragmented several times, or they learn how to fragment in order not to feel. So think about you losing or missing pieces of your aura, right? Of your soul. You feel disconnected, disoriented, chronic fatigue. You're not able to make contact with emotions. So fragmentation can cause a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And that's definitely something that I thought was important, was to talk to people and tell them what are the symptoms of the soul fragmentation, because I think when you tell people the symptoms, they're going to be like, oh, I think I might have this problem.
Yeah. So as I said, you feel tired, you don't feel present. People say, I don't feel presence, or I feel disconnected. Sometimes I feel I'm not myself. I'm always tired, I'm not able to make decisions. There's a great part of you that is missing. Well, not a great part, but it's a part of you that is missing. So if you think of your aura, right, you'll be looking like Swiss cheese, parts of you missing. At the same time, your aura is your shield against other energies. So if you don't have your shield complete, you're exposed to these other energies. And when I say other energies, could be other souls that may want to attach to you. So it can cause a lot of issues. Yes.
Okay. All right. That's big. Okay. So let's see, types of death and their symptoms. So there's a big chapter in the book about this.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's talk about that.
Well,
I can start with, do you want me to go by each one, or?
I would prefer for people to read the book and get the idea, but I'm going to talk briefly about that,
Yes.
So depending on the type of death, a certain symptom is going to generate. This is what I found in my sessions, right, with my clients, people that had issues with skin, rash and allergies, that in fires, people issues with their neck, or feeling disconnected. They had either been decapitated or hanged, right? They feel this. People afraid of speaking in public, people that had issues breathing, maybe fire or drowning,
Asthma.
Yeah, because they're not going to come to you saying, Antonio, I think I died in a fire in a past life. Right. You see the books, right? Of all the things that you read in the book, people are not going to come to you saying, Antonio, this is what I have. No, they will come to you with a symptom.
Yes.
And based on the symptom, you might get an idea, but you never know if it's true or not. Right. But at least you make notes, and those notes will be like your GPS during the session. But yeah, there's a type of drowning, Which other type of death do you have there that caught your attention, for example? You have fire, drowning, decapitation.
Yeah, let's see. Burn at the stake, falls, poisoning, buried alive.
The fall. And I have a session about that on my YouTube channel. Allow me 1 second. Let me try to get the numbers and people interested to watch it. Some people say this guy is crazy speaking about these things, but no, but we have the video. So good things I have.
Yeah,
videos
and
for
not
a lot
only
of
that,
stuff.
I mean, we've done hundreds of sessions. We're not basing this off of
Yes.
one-time deal, you know. This is based on hundreds and hundreds of sessions.
Absolutely. I am looking for this session. Oh, I don't know where it went. This is like maybe like 2 years old in my channel.
Okay.
I will need to look. Maybe you can put it
In the description.
later in the comments. Right.
Yeah.
So that video is about somebody in a past life. She was pushed from a balcony. And in this life, she had issues with her back. She has issues walking. I noticed that when she got into my office, she had a little bit of issue with her balance. And hold on, I found it. 183 in my channel, 183.
Okay.
And you see the whole thing and the testimonial at the end, and 184 is just a testimonial. So this woman had this issue. She was pushed from a balcony by her husband and died because of that fall. That what she was feeling in the back was coming from that experience. So people say, Antonio, does that mean that she was born that way? No, not really. When she started experiencing something similar in her life, the soul remembered, oh, I've experienced this thing that is similar. So it triggered the symptom. We're triggered all the time. Trigger the symptom. So she relived the experience. Some people might not like what they see there because they might be thinking you're making your client suffer during the session. I learned this from Kabuli, but no, you're desensitizing the trauma. In order to desensitize the trauma, they need to go through the experience, being guided. And they're not feeling really with the body, it's everything with their mind. And you see at the end of the session how happy she is. And I stopped the recording, and as she was getting up of the chair, my recliner, I used to have a recliner in my office, she said, there's no back pain. And she was able to tie her shoes. So I turned the camera back on, and I recorded the testimonial. You see her moving and being happy after the session.
Wow.
So that was
I think that might have been in the book as well.
Yes, I'm sure it was there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Awesome.
So if you read the book, that's session 183. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay. Awesome. So the next thing I want to talk about, you called it timeless phrases, but I called it timeless spell casting because they are literally spell casting. They're throwing out a spell, and that will affect them for all the lifetimes. Right. So this is where I think is so critical that people understand that words will bind you forever.
Yes.
And to be so careful what they say. So
right.
We're talking about promises, vows, pacts, oaths, curses, and the last thought before you die. Right. So I want you to tell people how important it is not to make promises, vows, pacts, oaths, etc., and how it and give us an example of how it affected someone in,
Absolutely. I'll give you two. Very interesting. So again, what's causing all these issues for us is the concept of time, that for the soul, time doesn't exist. What we said 3,000 years ago, we just said it. If we promised with a vow 3,000 years ago and we didn't put a limit to it, it's still valid, it's still going, right? So an example, of course, my clients, as I said, they don't come to me saying, Antonio, I think I made a promise in a past life, I'm having these issues, right? They come with the symptoms. Somebody that came saying, I have this pattern in my life. and I have several relationships, and every time we were about to commit, I ended the relationship with no explanation. So when we look for the root cause of that pattern, she went to a life, and that's also my book. She went to a life where she was a woman, a Quaker, I think, and there was this soldier that was wounded from the enemy lines. So she's helping this soldier heal. She took the soldier to her house and waited until he recovered. They fell in love. And when it was time for this guy to leave, she said to him something like, if I remember correctly, I'll wait for you forever. That's what the soul was doing. This guy was not present in this reincarnation, but she was waiting. Her soul was waiting for the guy. So every time she was about to commit, she said, because I'm waiting for
the other
the guy
in
right?
the other life.
I had somebody that is a beautiful woman in this life, was a priest in a previous life. What do priests do?
They're
Vows,
celibate.
right? And a lot of things about material things. So think about a beautiful woman with these things being still active for her soul, causing problems, right? So we need, if you're gonna promise something, put a limit, at least for the life of this body, or until this body, at least when you get married, it says until death tore us apart, right? But think about it. Sometimes you get married and you're divorced and you're in your third marriage, you're still thinking about the first guy. You cannot get rid of that guy because of the vows that you made. So it's important to get an understanding of all of that. That is what I learned a lot of the concept from my teacher, Jose Luis Cabulli, and I mentioned him in my book, and I give him his credit. I'm also putting my sessions to prove that it's not only him saying it. This is also here. I'm experiencing this, and this is my own experience, and I added a few more things. But it does happen. Things that you say before you die, things that you think
huge.
before you die,
yes.
It's going to affect you. So we need to be, and that's as you can see, that's the purpose of that book, is to bring that awareness of all the things that can be affecting us, because we don't understand that we are a soul having a human experience, or a spirit having a human experience, and that time does not exist. For our soul, everything is happening now. So once you understand that, you're more careful with your life.
Yes, and for example, I know that I've always had issues with feeling strong feelings for men, and one of my psychic friends said, well, when you were 13, a boy broke your heart and you said, I'll never love again. And it was like, oh, but at 13, like, come on.
Yes,
yes. This is so wrong that this could be like something I said when I was a child is affecting my life, throughout. Yeah. So, you guys, this is really, really critical that you understand that words are spells. Yeah. We are doing spells as we say these words, and they're very strong.
Sometimes you curse people, right? And that comes back to you.
And that's the next thing I wanted to talk about, the curse. So that's important, because cursing comes back to you like a boomerang.
Either in this life or in next life. And you might say, I'm going to curse you and your family. Who knows that in the next life you're going to be born in that family, that you curse. So
absolutely.
Yeah, all of that is very interesting.
Absolutely. And so for people that would wonder, how do we stop the oath or the vow, that promises that we made? How do we cut that cord or make it so that you didn't say it? Or how do you undo it?
As I said, when they come for a session, they don't know that took place. Mm-hmm. We just follow the symptom, and once we get to that, let's say it's a past life, I'm not saying, oh, see, in that past life you made a promise or you cursed somebody. I'm just allowing my client to just navigate the past life. Past life is going to unfold as I'm asking questions, and if I realize that that's happened, then there's a specific procedure that we need to do with promises, vows, and all of that. so that they're not in effect. That is part of the past life therapy technique. There are
Okay.
many things that can, as I say people that even already took introspective hypnosis. Once you learn past life therapy, there is a lot, even when I'm teaching introspective hypnosis, that you think this is too much for you at this moment. Once you learn past life therapy, you can do this much more in a session. There's a lot more that you can do in a session to help your clients. So yes, there are different procedures to deal with curse, with a promise, with a vow, with the last thought, for example, how to help them, number one, become aware of how that is affecting them and how to end it.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. How it's affecting their life currently.
Right.
Yeah.
The whole thing goes about helping the client make conscious of what is unconscious to them, and help you make conscious of how what you experienced, what you said, what you went through, the way you die is affecting you now.
Yeah.
Right. Once you get an understanding, everything changes.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so the next thing is something that is very difficult for people to understand why this happens in their lives, which is rape and molestation. Obviously, for sure, it's the hardest thing to handle, I think, as a practitioner.
Yeah.
But it does affect us physically, psychologically, and emotionally, energetically, in a soul level. So it's huge,
It's huge.
huge. So, okay. So what do you want to tell us about that? I had a page. So
a lot of people, yes, come to sessions knowing that they went through that experience when they were younger or when they were kids. But some don't remember. They have the symptom of a rape. Of course, I'm not going to tell them it seems that you were raped. I'm just taking notes. They have the symptoms that they don't know why they're feeling that way. And I had clients that in the session, they remember they were raped. That was experience had been removed completely from the conscious mind. But rape doesn't only affect you when it happened in this life, but in past lives, because the imprint of the rape stays with the soul. As I said, it also affects you at the energetic level. Things that I can mention about that is it's difficult to understand the impact of a rape, especially in a child, because it takes away their childhood, their innocence. It affects them in their lives whenever they want to establish their loving relationship, or even people having sexual intercourse. But even if you don't know what happened to you during childhood or in a past life, just the symptoms that I see manifesting for my clients, painful intercourse, being afraid of becoming pregnant, feeling disconnected, people saying, I can think sex, I cannot feel it down there. There is a disconnection. So I need to pay, as I said, I need to pay special attention to the symptoms I mentioned during the session, and see where they go in the experience to help them finish, to help them process that event so that we take care of the symptom. But rape molestation affects especially the feminine energy. And the feminine energy is our creative energy, is our creative, our connection to source, to our divinity. And in this planet, the feminine energy is better channeled by the female body, right? So this is why I say that whenever the feminine energy was affected in this life or past lives, or even in the womb, is going to manifest, especially in women, causing problems, not able to establish a loving relationship, not able to enjoy sex, or being afraid of becoming pregnant, or having spontaneous abortions or miscarriages, right? All that stuff. It can come from many things, but especially from rape, molestation in this and previous lives.
Yeah, so that means that you could have symptoms in this life that as if somebody raped you, but it might have happened in a different life.
Of course. I have many of those cases.
Wow.
Yes. I had a case with a beautiful young woman that was raped by a Roman soldier, and in this life, she was afraid of having sexual intercourse. And yeah, don't get me wrong, she had partners, she had her boyfriend, but she would just be there and not feel anything.
Mm-hmm.
She chose to disconnect, not to feel anything. So she was not enjoying her the relationship with the boyfriend or the partner.
Right.
So because what? Because of what happened back then in Rome, and she didn't die because of that rape. Her life continued in that rape, but that imprint stayed with the soul. Yes.
Yeah.
So think about think about all of the things that can be affecting us at the same time, right? We can be trapped in an event in a few lives. We can be trapped in the event in the womb. We can be trapped in events that happen in this life at the same time. We could also be fragmented. So you have all of these things taking place at this time, multi-simultaneity, taking place at this time, affecting us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I wrote here, as reported by several of my clients in hypnotic trance, their spirits chose to experience this type of circumstances because they needed to learn something from them, or simply because it was their turn to experience them as a consequence of karma.
Yeah.
That is, that now it was their turn to go through what they had made others go through in a past
Right.
life. So I think that's important, because I always have told people, right? You create your life contract. Why would I create molestation? Oh my God, why would I want my own rape? There you go.
Yeah. So you see a lot of people engaged in the victim role,
Yes.
but we need to understand that victim role could be because they chose to experience that as a soul, to experience this in their life. But what I find most of the time is that every victim started as an aggressor. So they did something in a past life, and then maybe the thought was like, when they were dying, the last thought was, I don't deserve to be forgiven, I don't deserve to be happy. And when they reincarnate, they sabotage themselves,
Yeah.
Or that is karma, right? Now is my turn. It's going to be my turn to experience what I did to others. It doesn't matter. As you said, it's difficult to navigate those sessions where people were molested or raped because they're being raped in front of me again.
Exactly.
But everything's going through their mind. It's not, they don't feel with the body. And it's difficult sometimes. I was questioning myself, why do we have to go through all of this in the name of spiritual evolution? In the end, and Aurelia Mejia would say the same thing, my teacher. Doesn't matter what I think or what I believe, it happens. And that's the way. And when people that went to the spirit world, maybe in a life between life session, they're saying what they're choosing. And even in introspective hypnosis session, they're saying, I am choosing this when I'm born. I need to go through this. I need to learn this. Who am I to say then to say this is not right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's really, really important. And okay, and then the last thing is the roles that we play in our lives. And you talked about, right, becoming the victim. And I want to make sure that people understand what happens when they stay in this victim role.
Interesting. We play three roles. We play victim, aggressor, or attacker, right? And the observer. And we're affected by all of those roles. And each of those roles are going to cause something in us. The most difficult thing to accomplish in a session with our clients is to help them get out of the victim role. Because when we decide to become victims, the way I see it is, number one, you decide to become a victim, you're giving your energy to someone else, to your attacker. You're giving your energy to your attacker, you get trapped in that experience. You get trapped into that experience, you're getting the symptoms now. Doesn't matter how long ago it took place, And when they're in the victim mentality, the victim role, number one, they're not responsible for what happened to them. They don't want to learn. They don't take ownership of the lessons. For some people, they want to be victims because the victim role is working for them, is doing something for them. Because I'm a victim, I'm getting special attention from my family. I'm getting special attention from my husband, from my wife. If I'm not a victim, if I decide not to become a victim, I'm not going to get that attention. So when they engage in that role, they don't evolve. They're just, they think they are at the mercy of others, mercy of the universe.
They're
Nothing
giving
is
their
their
power
fault.
away.
They're giving their power away.
Absolutely.
So how do you detect those victims when they come to you and say to you, everybody hates me, everybody does this to me, I always do this always happens to me? This is the victim mentality. And it's difficult. I mean, the sessions are not miracles. You can help them and give them an understanding. They get an understanding of where this is coming from, but they have free wills. They can choose to just say, okay, yes, I'm going to stop this role now, or they're just going to disregard what they got during the session.
Yeah. And a lot of the time, remember, being a victim is all they know, right? So to them, releasing that being a victim, that's all they know. So to them, to give that up, that would be like, whoa, they don't know.
Because
they don't know how.
They could have been in that role for a few lives already. So it's difficult for them to leave that role. But if you're watching this video, for those watching this video, and you feel a victim, get out of that victim role. Because if you don't work on it, it's going to come back to you again.
Over
you
and
don't
over
want to
and
be
over.
a victim again. Yes, over and over and over. If not in this life, in the next one. So get out of this role, because this role is not going to do anything for you. It's not going to help you evolve. It's not going to help you learn. It's not going to help you learn forgiveness. You're giving your energy away. Every time somebody does something to you, you're giving part of your energy, part of your power away. Reclaim that energy back. Nobody is a victim in this role. You chose to be in this planet. Nobody forced you. You chose your own lessons. Nobody forced you. Yes, how do you know if you don't have a session? Well, you can read my book, but read books from others. I mean, I'm not the only one talking about this. I'm not just sharing concepts. I'm sharing sessions. And some of those sessions are in my channel. So it's not me making them up. It's in my channel. What sessions from Aurelio Mejia, here, Jose Luis Cabuli talking about this, Michael Newton, you name it. There are a lot more people that came earlier that were talking about these things. So there's got to be something to it for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So that is all my questions that I had from the book. It was again, really, truly amazing book, and the examples are magnificent.
Thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
I loved it. So Antonio, I want to thank you so much. And if people want to book a session with you, where do they go?
Well, again, thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure. I can talk about this topic for hours and hours.
Right.
You know me. If you want to book a session with me, you can go to my website, antonio.sangio.com. And Sangio spells S-A-N-G-I-O, antoniosangio.com. If you don't want to have a session yet, I facilitate workshops like 3-4 times a year. I have workshops, healing the wounded feminine energy, soul, and entrapment and recovery of the soul. And in December 3rd, I have the symptoms of the soul. This is the first time I'm going to do that workshop. And in that workshop, what I do is I speak about that topic for an hour. I open the mic for questions, but then I get volunteers from the audience and I facilitate sessions back to back. So I get to facilitate like 4, maybe 5 sessions. So we do from like 10 or 11 to 6 in the afternoon. You want a session? If you want a session, you can book a session. If you want to learn hypnosis, I teach 2 techniques with the blessing of my teachers. Introspective hypnosis, which I modified a lot already. I learned that from Aurelio Mejia. I modified it a lot. And I also teach past life therapy, the technique that I learned from Jose Luis Cabuli. And both of techniques with their blessings.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And the sessions that you do both in person and remote?
I'm doing mostly remote now.
Okay.
If somebody wants an in-person session, send me an email. I can accommodate that. What you see there, I'm not in my room. This is my office. You see this. There's the sped for the sessions, you know.
Yeah.
So yes, if you want an in-person session, send me an email and we can accommodate time. The way I'm doing it mostly online is not because of the pandemic, because that is over, I would say, is that I'm traveling, and that allows me to facilitate session from different places as I move. But if you want an in-person session, I can tell you where I'm going to be in Charlotte, and we can schedule one.
Okay, and this is in Charlotte,
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, very good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Antonio. I
Thank you.
super
Thank you.
appreciate it. Oh, and also,
For sure.
I'm going to tell people about the Peru trip that you have scheduled for March 18th, which I am considering and going. So I would love you if you guys would join us in this
Yes.
trip. That would be awesome.
It would be nice. Yes, we're going. We did this with Alba Wyman and Blair Styra, in 2020, right before the pandemic. I got trapped in Peru because of the pandemic. We had just finished that trip. So we're doing this in Peru, and it's not a regular tour, because the idea is I'm going to be talking about these topics and work on some of our issues and do kind of sessions, but at the same time, mainly visit these archaeological sites and get the energy from this place. It was amazing last time. This time it's going to be a small group. But yeah, if you're willing to do this, and if you want to feel comfortable with somebody, I'm Peruvian, you know, somebody that is Peruvian, that knows the language, you want to feel more comfortable, this is the time.
Yes, and I think that's important, because I wanted to go with somebody that was from there. And you know, whenever I was like, whenever I go, I wanted to be with someone who's from that country. So yeah, that's a big deal for me.
Yes, this is listed on my website. I just, as I was explaining to you, Elisa, I just published my new website. I noticed there are a few pictures from that tour that I'm missing. I need to put them there, but you have the list, and the idea is to start with kind of a workshop the first day. As we acclimate, yeah, that's the idea, just to do a workshop. The first day, talk about these topics, and when I do this, I facilitate sessions, so you get the chance to have your own session. And then that's the preparation for the rest of the trip. We're considering 8 days, if I'm not mistaken, it's 8 days. And the first day we go slow because there's altitude in Cusco. Gonna go to Cusco, right? So you need some time to get adjusted to altitude. So we take it easy the first day. Yeah. So yeah, I hope that you guys are interested and want to experience this. It was amazing last time. And you can watch videos from the last time on my YouTube channel. Look for videos in 2020. You'll see them there. It was really nice.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you, Antonio.
Thank you again. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and make sure that you share this video, because I'm sure that this book and Antonio as well doing sessions can help a lot of people. So thank you for sharing and clicking the like button.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.